It is a typical fall Saturday right now. Let's go ahead and start with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we open our hearts and our minds to you this morning. We come to worship and praise you and be in your presence, Lord. Fill us with your peace and your love and your understanding this morning, Lord. In your name, amen. I'm going to start off with a couple announcements. If you could throw those up on the screen for the people online. October 12th at 5 p.m., we have a youth movie night here at church. So any youth who wants to join, that's at 5 o'clock on October 12th. Thomas Farms, we're going to be there October 19th at 2 o'clock. We have the fire pit for an hour. There is no cost for the fire pit, but if you like to go and do the corn maze or any other activities, there are you can pick and choose, and it's a bit cheaper than other places. So you can do what you like after the fire pit. And then our weekly Zoom connections, we have Tuesday night prayer at 7 p.m. and Friday night Bible study at 7 p.m. And those links to the Zoom meetings are on our Facebook page. Scripture reading this week is from 1 Peter chapter 3, 14 through 16. But even if you should suffer for righteousness' sake, you will be blessed. Have no fear of them, nor be troubled. But in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and respect, having a good conscience, so that when you are slandered, those who revile your good behavior in Christ may be put to shame. Let's worship.
Let's pull. Welcome everybody out in internet land. For all our friends on the East Coast, we're praying for you. So we're gonna worship with some gusto today. We'll worship with jazz hands, maybe. What do you say? What do you say? Everybody falls sometimes. Gotta find the strength to rise from the ashes and make a new beginning. And anyone can feel the ache. You think it's more than you can take, but you're stronger than you know. Don't you give up now. The sun will soon be shining. You've got to face the clouds and find the silver lining. I've seen dreams that move the mountains and hope that doesn't ever end, even when the sky is falling. I've seen miracles just happen, and silent prayers get answered. Broken hearts become brand new. That's what faith can do. It doesn't matter what you heard. Impossible is not a word. It's just a reason for someone not to try. And everybody's scared to death when they decide to take that step out on the water. It'll be alright. And life is so much more than what your eyes are seeing. And you will find your way if you keep believing. I've seen dreams that move the mountains and hope that doesn't ever the sky is falling. I've seen miracles just happen, and silent prayers get answered. Broken hearts become brand new. And that's what faith can do. You overcome the odds when you don't have a chance. And when the world says you can't, it'll tell you that you can. And I've seen dreams that move the mountains, and hope that doesn't ever end. Even when the sky is falling, I've seen miracles just happen, and silent prayers get answered. Broken hearts become brand new. And that's what faith can do. And that's what faith can do. Even if you fall sometimes, you will find the strength to rise. It's one of the songs that we performed on this trip that we'll be telling you about in a little while. We did 3 songs for the juveniles we visited. And one was about faith, one was about love, and one was about truth. Isn't it funny how all of those things lead us back to Christ? Above all powers, above all kings, above all nature and all created things, above all wisdom and all the ways of man, you were here before the world began. Above all kingdoms, above all thrones, above all wonders the world has ever known, above all wealth and treasures of the earth, there's no way to measure what you're worth. Crucified and laid behind a stone, you lived to die, rejected and alone, and like a rose trampled on the ground, you took the fall and thought of me above all. Above all powers, above all kings, above all nature and all created things, above all wisdom and all the ways of man, you were here before the world began. Above all kingdoms, above all thrones, above all wonders this world has ever known, above all wealth, treasures of the earth, there's no way to measure what you're worth. Crucified stone. You live to die, rejected and alone, and like a rose trampled on the ground. You took the fall and thought of me above all. Crucified and laid behind a stone, you live to die, rejected and alone, and like a rose trampled on the ground. You took the fall, thought of me above all. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you so much. Thank you for the gift of our existence and the ability to praise you and to promise that if we believe in you, that you came here and lived a life and you died and were resurrected, that we can spend eternity with you. Thank you for that promise. Wonderful, so wonderful is your unfailing love. Your cross has spoken mercy over me. No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no heart can fully know how glorious, how beautiful you are. You beautiful one I love, you beautiful one I adore, beautiful one my soul must sing. Powerful, so powerful is your mighty works displayed for all to see. The beauty of your majesty awakes my heart to see. How marvelous, how wonderful you are. Beautiful one I love, you're beautiful one I adore, you're beautiful one my soul must sing. Beautiful one I love, you're beautiful one I adore, you're beautiful one my soul must sing. You opened my eyes to your wonders new. You captured my heart with this love. 'Cause nothing on earth is as beautiful as you, Jesus. You opened my eyes to your wonders new. You captured my heart with this love. 'Cause nothing on earth is as beautiful as you. Beautiful one I love, you're beautiful one I adore, beautiful one my soul must sing. Oh, my soul must sing. My soul must sing. My soul must sing. Beautiful one, whoa. My soul must sing. My soul must sing. My soul them all sing, beautiful one. All right, this is where those prayers come in. This is one of my all-time favorites. These are the days of Elijah, declaring the word of the Lord. And these are the days of your servant Moses, righteousness being restored. And though these are days of great trial, of famine and darkness and sword, still we are the voice in the desert crying, prepare ye the way of the Lord. Behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like the sun. At the trumpet call, lift your voice, the year of Jubilee, and out of Zion's hill salvation comes. These are the days of Ezekiel, the dry bones becoming as flesh. And these are the days of your servant David, rebuilding a temple of praise. Oh, these are the days of the harvest, for the fields are as wide in your world, and we are the laborers in your vineyard, declaring the word of the Lord. Behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like the sun. At the trumpet call, lift your voice, the year of Jubilee, and out of Zion's hill salvation comes. Alrighty, we need some help with this one. Right? There's no God like Jehovah. 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 Behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like the sun. At the trumpet call, lift your voice, the year of Jubilee, and shine. Salvation comes, behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like the sun. At the trumpet call, lift your voice, the year of Jubilee, and out of Zion's hill salvation comes. Have you ever heard the term "stop tripping, man"? I think they're talking about me tripping over lyrics. I appreciate your support. Another one of my favorite songs. Blessed be your name in the land that is plentiful, where streams of abundance flow. Blessed be your name. And blessed be your name when I'm found in a desert place. Though I walk through the wilderness, blessed be your name. Every blessing you pour out, I'll turn back to praise. And when the darkness closes in, Lord, still I will say, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. And blessed be your name when the sun's shining down on me, when the world's all as it should be. Blessed be your name. Yes, Jesus. Blessed be your name on the road marked with suffering, those pain in the offering. Blessed be your name. Every blessing you pour out, I'll turn back to praise. And when the darkness closes in, Lord, still I will say, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name, Jesus. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. You give and take away. You give and take away. My heart will choose to say, Lord, blessed be your name. You give and take away. You give and take away. My heart will choose to say, Lord, blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name, Jesus. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name, Jesus. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. How amazing it is that the creator of the universe knows our name and knows the number of hairs on our head. Well, it's easy for Rich and I. But seriously, he knows your name. He was there when you were knit inside your mom's womb. So blessed be his name.
Well, good morning. We are actually service is going to be a little different this morning. I'm going to actually hand it over to Jeffrey. He's going to get back up here with Kelly Dunn. And we're going to hear about a mission that they went on for the, incarcerated youth around the state. They're from, Kelly's leading what is now called New Song Outreach Ministry for the juvenile detention centers. So if you guys would like to come up and share how your latest mission went. Thank you for being here. Kelly's a very busy guy. He's even on call right now. No sensitive information going over the internet, right?
Boom. So as Rich mentioned, we did a 3-day mission trip. This was in Western Washington, visiting 8 separate county facilities, juvenile facilities. We started on Friday, and the Odyssey began. We have a lot of miles. I give Kelly a lot of credit setting it up the way it is, so it's not like ping pong. At least it's a zigzag, which is a lot easier to manage. Yeah, we wound up being short, one person this time. And so for the second time in a row, I got a phone call at like 7:30 in the morning. And that was amusing because Kelly was like, I'll bet you're wondering why I'm calling you at 7:30 in the morning. And for about a half a second, I was wondering, and then it kind of dawned on me what it could be. And so the musical talent of the trip was unable to make it due to illness, and so I had to stand in. So thankfully, God lifts us all up when we reach out to Him. So that helped a lot. We drove up we met at what's the name of the facility? Woodinville Treatment Center. And actually, I'm going to cut over to Kelly to give you a little background on that real quick.
So the used to be Woodinville Group Home, and now it's Woodinville Treatment Center. It's a little house that's nestled in the woods. You wouldn't even notice driving by it, but it's across the street from the Kingsgate Safeway. And young people, youth, young men now, reside there. They're coming out of facilities like Echo Glen Children's Center and Green Hill School, and during their last few months, maybe even up to a year and a half, they're spending their time in these community centers, and they're strewn throughout the state. And what it provides them, it gets them out of the facilities where they're locked down, and they are able to go to school. They're able to find jobs in the community. They're able to put away some money and be able to reintegrate back into the community with a softer landing, I guess is the best way to put it. That they aren't coming straight out of lockup into the community. So that's the place that we met and started our journey from.
So, before we get too much farther into this, I would like to thank New Life Fellowship of Puget Sound for the generous gift that helped us along our way this trip. We started off from there and headed north, and so we were headed to Skagit County, and I remember we're getting up that way, and now imagine, right, as soon as he calls me in the morning, I'm like, okay, I've got to get this all together, right? It was only 3 songs, but it's also equipment, all right? And so we're heading that way, and Kelly looks over and says, so you've got the older tablet? And it dawned on me, I have the newer tablet. So that means, and I left the dongle to plug the 3.5 millimeter jack into it at home.
I remembered everything but that. So there was an opportunity for us to get tripped up, but without missing a beat, the nearest Walmart gets programmed into the Garmin, and off we go. So we stop there and get the needed supplies, and we head up to the Skagit County juvenile facility there. I remember this from the last trip I was on. The staff is very welcoming, and I guess flexible would be, because some facilities have much more rigid requirements of visitors when they're there. Here at Skagit County, we were able to shake hands, and then when we weren't speaking or singing, we're able to sit amongst the youth. And I always like it when we can do that, because I feel it gives them a sense of normalcy, and it gives us an ability to connect better, I think. There was a young man that we recognized there, and Kelly got fairly extended time after our service to speak with the young man. Would you like to share about that?
Yeah. This young man I knew previously from a previous trip we've been on, but also during his time at Echo Glen when I was there. And they had just finished school and walked into the room, and he looked at me and he goes, "I recognize you." And then his countenance kind of changed. He goes, "Oh man, I'm sorry." And apologized for having to see me there again. And the disappointment in his voice, not at me, but disappointment in himself. And that was, but it was good. It was good because it opened a door for him to kind of sit back, take a look where his life is, the direction that it's going, and that he doesn't want that. So we did the service. It meant a lot to him, and got to talk to him afterwards and share some information. But he just started crying and said that he's tired of this. He has thoughts of harming himself, and that he's even to the point that his mom was going to bail him out, and his sibling said, "Why do you continue to do this? You know he's just going to end up back there." And having his mom say that to him, to tell him that, was heartbreaking for him. And he said, "I'm so tired of hurting the people who I love and who love me, and I need to make a change in my life." And we see that desperation, maybe not vocalized as much as it was through him because of my relationship with him, but we see that at each of the facilities that we go to.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stories like that, and that's where these ministries and we were fortunate enough to be in some places on that weekend where we could tell staff was truly engaged and cared about these kids, and you can almost tell by their posture when they walk in that that's the case. One of my favorite parts of this is when you see the light bulb come on. And, you can almost see the thought bubble above their head going, so you're saying there's a chance? And that's the best thing of this is getting to light that fuse that we hope will eventually lead to salvation. We want them to make decisions that are better so that they don't wind up back in their same mess. But really the end game is so we can see them for eternity. So that was a kind of a bittersweet way to start. It hurts your heart to know that a young person is in that kind of pain, but it also lifts your spirits knowing that you're giving them some hope. So from there, that was Mount Vernon, right? Yeah. Okay. From there, we went up to Whatcom County in Bellingham, and we went to go eat, which is also one of my favorite parts of these trips. You can't tell, can you? Is that jalapenos up there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I ordered whatever I ordered. I think I ordered arroz con camarones, and they brought this plate that was like the size of half of the table. And I was like, yeah, if I eat all that, I'm not going to be able to sing for a week. So I didn't, but
You did pretty good.
I did pretty good. It was a solid effort. So then we go over to the facility and load in, and I remember it vividly from the last time as well. And staff again was super friendly, and I believe even one of the guards, her husband's a pastor, so it feels like you kind of have a head start. We only had 3 in there, which is kind of funny for such. Because it's a pretty big place. But there was 2/3 engagement, I would say. And the one young fella, was locked in. And once again, that's kind of what we really like to see. Because even if it's just, even if we're 99% of this is planting a seed and you're walking away and you don't know if it ever gets watered or if it germinates. But when you see them engage like that and asking questions and asking true questions, not questions that are designed to derail the program, but questions that are meant for deeper understanding, that kind of lights our fire, So we finished that and head back to, I think we stayed in Edmonds. So we could get up early on Saturday morning and hit the ferry. And so we took it's really quite short boat ride, really, when you think about it. Just long enough to not be able to get a snack. I will say I've made a lot of progress since the trips of the early 2000s, right? Because back then it was a bag of this or a bucket of that. Bag of burgers or a bucket of wings or whatever. I'd be sitting in the back seat. But that's when my metabolism could handle it a lot better. Anyways, so this was probably maybe second longest single run of the trip. And so we drove, when we got over to Kingston, then we drove up to Clallam County to Port Angeles. Although part of the blessing of this trip, even though we were down 25% of our manpower, the 3 that were there, we basically split the driving 3 ways, and so what they say, many hands make light work. So that was a blessing. And you had some thoughts about Clallam County, if I remember. I wondered if you felt like sharing those.
I'd just say that there was just, at Clallam County, there's just kind of a heaviness that we didn't experience at other facilities. And I don't know what that was from or what caused that, but, and I've noticed it there before, just where the kids seem really down. I don't know if it's because of the atmosphere that they're in that part of the state, what's going on in the community, but there was just kind of a heaviness that we didn't really experience at the other facilities. So that place is in need of prayer. But just a feeling and sensation that I got on this trip and in previous times that we've been there. I will say that when we do go into the facilities, it's interesting because the kids come out from their cells and they look at us and they go, "Oh, yeah, it's the church people." But I can listen. I can listen for an hour to what they have to say because it gets me out of my cell, gets me out of my room, which they don't like at all. They're in their cells by themselves the majority of the day, and so any opportunity they have to get out and be social and interactive is a huge win for them. And so what I like to do is say, you know what? We're not the church people because we have a lot more in common with you than what you would think. Jeffrey was honest and shared his struggle with addiction, with alcoholism, and how that has affected his life, and how God intervened in that, and where he's at today. That's a connection. That's a connection with these kids, where they don't just look at you now as the church people, right? Coming in to tell them that they need to do better, or coming in to tell them that they need to get their act together, or coming in and saying that God's mad at you, right? It opens up a door of opportunity to talk and to share and to get below the surface. The other gentleman that was on the trip with us as a teenager sat in their shoes. He was incarcerated as a youth, and he was looking at some very serious time. And to have someone on the trip that has been where they have been also makes a connection to where, oh, maybe if God can do something in this guy's life and God can do something in this other guy's life, maybe there's hope for me. And that's what we want to share. That's what we want to bring. And I said, you know what? I'm not that much different than you either. The only difference between me and you is I didn't get caught. I didn't get caught. Otherwise, I could have been sitting where you are. And that, when you make that connection, where you're not those people, but you're one of us, it opens their ears and it opens their minds and opens their heart to receive what God's given you to share with them. So then we had 5 youth at Clallam County, And so we did the service there, and again, for them, they listened. There just wasn't a whole lot of interaction with them as much as we had at the other facilities. So that kind of led to kind of that heaviness that we felt. From there, we went to Mason County, and Mason County is over in Shelton, and so it's a long couple-hour drive down Highway 101 with twists and turns and going through the Olympic Peninsula and Hood Canal area. We got to Mason County, and it is a very small facility, very small facility, and but we had five youth there, and for the most part, they were all very interactive as well. And I think we had like 4 of the 5 that kind of prayed that prayer with us at the end of the service.
And one of the guards.
Yeah, one of the guards as well. That was neat to see. Do you have anything to share about? You did this sharing there at Mason County.
Oh, I did. That was brutal. You know, when I have a script in front of me or lyrics, that's super easy because you just are you know, doing the parrot thing. Let me point out, though, that one of the good things about the trip from Port Angeles to Shelton was we stopped for ice cream. And it was that, you know, kind of made up in the mountains ice cream, you know, like you can't get at QFC. Actually, not meaning to pub any big company, or at your local grocer, let's put it that way. But I think actually there are in some of your finer grocers. It's small. When we say small, I mean it's like the smallest one I can remember being in, actually. So, you know, like 20 years ago, I went on several of these trips with Kelly and some other people, and circumstances led to quite a break, and so it's really great to be back out there and bringing the word to the kids with Kelly. So yeah, this is kind of where I was at when I was sharing with them. I was just like, my brain was in like 18 different spots, and I had a bunch of stuff that I wanted to say, and I think I said like half of one thing. And it wasn't, I mean, these kids were not, there's some places you go into, and they're just, man, they give you that look, and you're like, egads, when do we get out of here? And it wasn't like that, but they were so locked in, it was nerve-wracking for me, because I didn't want to say anything that would tip them the opposite direction of where we were trying to get them to look, right? But that service was a blessing in the fact that, you know, I had both Andre and Kelly to hold me up, you know, and so one has the ability to open and go a little longer, and one sees me struggling and is able to do a little bit longer of a closing, and boy, some impactful stuff there. You know, I'm struggling with my own emotion and knowing the mess I've sat in for 40 years of my life, and it's hard to keep those emotions from being visible. You know, but to see, as Kelly mentioned, you know, 80% of them praying the prayer and noticing the guard doing it too was phenomenal. And one reason why it's great to see staff being involved like that is because you know, I can hear myself fine, by the way. Having staff engaged like that we feel like we're leaving the message behind, and it's going to get watered, right? That's a pretty big deal. And so we left there. We witnessed some funny stuff down there in Shelton too. I don't know if it was funny or not. That's probably the wrong word, but we saw some of the locals, and one was either just having a bad day or was in crisis, because she was banging on the door to the juvenile detention center wanting to get in, and before we even saw her, we heard her coming, probably a block away, and we thought that she was somebody she was yelling at. And then we realized eventually that wasn't the case. I think we said a little prayer for her, because she was obviously having a tough day. And then we headed towards Grays County, right? And do you want to talk a little bit about that?
So our last service was at Grays Harbor County, which is in Aberdeen, and uniquely, they're the only facility in the state that still hadn't, I think, April, they still hadn't opened their facility up to visitors, to parents to come visit their kids, to outside programs like us coming in to do services. In the program, the detention manager that I talked to was pretty frustrated by that, because it's hard on the kids, and when it's hard on the kids, it's hard on the staff. And so they were really looking forward to us coming in. In fact, they told us that the judge and the people that are in charge of opening the facility up to outsiders are the judges. And apparently the one judge that had been staunch in not opening things up due to the pandemic, that he retired. And so they were able to work with the other judges to finally open the facility up towards the beginning of this year. But for 3.5, 4 years, nobody could go into the facility. And so they were super excited to schedule us, detention manager was, and we arrived there, and this also, I would say that the week prior, so we were there on Saturday evening. That week, they had a detention managers conference somewhere in the state. And so all the detention managers were over at that conference. And we arrived, buzzed in, and they go, "Hey, how can we help you?" And we said, "Hey, we're here to do a service for you guys." And they long pause. And they go, "Who are you?" We said, "New Song Outreach." "Oh, well, we don't have you down on our calendar, on our schedule." And so they paused, and long pause, and said, "We'll send somebody out to you." So the supervisor that was on duty came out, and I think her name was Babs or something like that. Tabby, that's it. And she, very professional, very polite, said, "Yeah, we don't have you on the schedule, and we can't, due to protocol, we can't let you guys come in. Who'd you work this through?" And I told the name of the detention manager, and she goes, "Well, let me try giving her a call, and we'll see what we can do." And so they tried, couldn't get a hold of her, couldn't get a hold of whoever it was they were trying to get a hold of to verify. And they said, "Well, why don't you guys go grab dinner in town, and I will continue to try calling, and we'll, if we can get a hold of them, I'll give you a call." if you don't hear from us by 7, then probably not going to be able to happen. So we went into town, grabbed dinner, and the whole time we're going, she was very apologetic, said, you know, we've been talking about needing groups to come in, and the kids need this, and we want you here, but we just, if you're unexpected, then we can't have you come in. And so we went to dinner, and we didn't hear anything back. But this isn't the first time this has happened to us. And it's an opportunity when something like this happens, is to plant seeds. Go, you know what? We know it's a dynamic environment. Stuff changes at the last minute. And so we understand it's not a problem. And so we were able to, and when you do that, then the next time that you call, and they bend over backwards for you. And so I did. After I got back from the trip, I called the detention manager and just said, hey, is there something more that we could have done to make this easier, or to verify or call before we arrived or something like that? And she goes, what do you mean? You guys didn't get in? And she goes, and I go, no, they didn't have us down. And she goes, oh, shoot. Except she didn't say shoot. So she had, and she goes, oh, I'm so sorry. They should have called me. And I said, well, they attempted to call you, or were trying to call you. And she goes, I'm here 24/7 on call. They should have been able to get a hold of me. And she was very apologetic. So for our trip in November, we're scheduling with them, and I know that we'll have a good experience there. But one of the other things, you know, that I talked to her about was, you know, I'm just glad that you guys are now open to where we can come in, that you can get parents to come in and to visit the kids. And she says, well, if they would come. And that speaks volumes there. Is a lot of these kids, they don't have family that come in to see them, that they're considered kind of an outcast. And for some it's probably relief that their kid is locked up somewhere because they know that they're in a safe environment, that they don't have to worry about the hospital calling. They don't have to worry about the medical examiner calling, saying that we've got your kid. They know they're in a safe environment, and so for some of the family, it might be a relief. Not knowing where they're running around, not knowing what they're doing. And so it's but just what she said speaks volumes. And then you've got people coming in that have no blood relationship, have no previous relationship with them, that are coming and spending their time, their money, away from their own family to minister and to relate with them. Sometimes, you know, and for a lot of these kids, they don't trust adults because adults talk at them, not with them. Adults don't listen. And, you know, adults are always standing over them. And so it does provide a positive experience for them with adult interactions with these teams that go out and do this ministry.
Yeah, we were disappointed, but we went had dinner, and then there was a phone call made, and a suggestion was made that we walk downtown area and do some praying and take along some gift cards. And the amusing thing about that is, like, we basically couldn't chase down somebody. We had one guy we saw, and like he saw us and like cross the street and what, you know. But we got a chance to see some of the just buildings that are in disrepair. But you know, all I could think of was, you know, a section of the city from days gone by. You know, took some photographs. One of which I really feel like should wind up on an album cover someday. Just one of those distance things with a couple of people in front of a vacant overpass, and anyways, and so from Aberdeen we drove to Tumwater, where we spent the night to start for Sunday morning. And you know, a couple of times the thought crept into my mind. I was really sad because on the last trip. Because Judy's done these trips before as well, but we had never done one together, and the last trip we got to do one together, and that was fantastic. But I gotta tell you, 3 guys in one car with the same mission and the same heart, and you've heard the term iron sharpens iron. And then when there's more iron there, I mean, so, and we're able to hold each other up and share things that you can't share with other people. That was a very significant part of this trip for me. So we get up in the morning on Sunday and drive over to the detention center. I'm trying to remember that facility. Is that the one where we do two different? No, that's Cowlitz County. Okay. Oh yeah. That was a pretty good service. There was some you could tell that it could have been a squirrely set of youth, but there was major oversight from staff, but it felt like there was, you know, care in that, and it was just a really powerful service to me. Both Andre and Kelly shared a powerful message, and these kids were engaged, and I believe that was another one of those 80% places where we saw them praying the prayer, and that's very uplifting when you see that the word is not coming back void, you know, because it doesn't anyways, but you know, it depends on your target, I guess. Then another long drive all the way down to Cowlitz County in Kelso Longview, and this is a much bigger place, although the area that you're in is not giant, but they have 2 different pods. They have the boys on one side and the girls on the other, and you do 2 separate services. Well, this is one of those things where there's some miscommunication again, and so we just had to be flexible. So we normally would do, you know, 1 service for the boys and 1 service for the girls, and we only had time to do the service for the boys, but it felt like staff probably was in that spot where they were like, wow, and they kind of helped make that happen for us. Which was a true blessing. There were a couple. Let's see. There was 1, 2. There was like 7 in there, right? 7. And there were a couple that I think were really they may not have been fully physically engaged, but they were definitely mentally and emotionally engaged. And the fact that that staff, it felt like they kind of, when they weren't necessarily prepared for us, went out of their way, and we were able to do at least one service in there. You know, that really felt like God's provision. And then, then we drive back north towards Chehalis to Lewis County, and we did some driving around there to try to find some people in the community we could bless, because we were there a couple of hours before we were going to check into the detention center. And we had an amazing dinner. There's a place called Jeremy's Farm to Table, and like 98% of their menu is, yep, gluten-free. So that was amazing. And so we drove around a little bit, and we happened upon one fellow, and I think that he really mistook the entire meaning of our attempted engagement with him, which we chuckled about later, because it was like, oh man, okay. We see where his brain went there. So we left him slightly alarmed in the parking lot where he was sitting on his bike on his phone, you know.
So I got to be honest, it was my error. It was my error. So I will say that street ministry and prison ministry are two very different things. And so I saw this guy in a parking lot of a bank as we were driving by, and I go, hey, there's a guy over there, and he's, you know, he looks to be in his late 20s, early 30s, sitting on his bicycle, looking at his phone or something like that. I couldn't tell if he was a homeless person or what was going on, but I go, let's go over there. So we drove around the block, came around, and when you pull into the parking lot and drive towards him, it's very obvious that you're driving to engage this person. And so he's sitting on his bike, looking at his phone, and Jeffrey's driving and rolls down the window, and he and so I'm sitting in the passenger seat, and he comes over. He actually kind of walks his bike over and says, "Hey, what's up?" And I just looked at him and I go, "Hey, you know," knowing that I've got some gift cards and in my car, I go, "Hey, is there anything that you need?" And he kind of pulls back a little bit and he goes, "No, I'm just talking on my phone or texting on my phone or whatever." He goes, "I'm good, thank you." And I go, "Oh, okay." And so we drive away, and then it dawned on us, I guess, yeah, that's like, oh, I think he was thinking we were offering him drugs. And it was like, oh man. And so that was a learning experience for us. And my wife has given me hints on how to more so be, how to engage that situation in the future. So then we drove around and got into some kind of, went by a nice golf course and kind of drove around some of the area of that, looking for some people, and then we got into kind of really kind of...
It's like we were in the Ozarks all of a sudden. One left turn and we were like, where's this still?
So we didn't see anybody there, so we got out of there and finally went to a mall, I guess it was, and found some people that were asking for help, and so we were able to give them a gift card, and they appreciated that and gave us a Bible verse in return, I think.
And Bible verses written on these fluorescent cards, and gave us one of those, and that was like, all right, we were supposed to be here for sure. So,
And then we went in and did the service that evening. It was our last service at Lewis County down in Chehalis, and we had 9, I think, 9 something like that, nine youth there.
definitely the biggest one.
Yeah, and they seemed engaged and appreciative of us being there. And so that's how we ended the trip and drove home back to the facility and parted ways. But I will say, I kind of made, I think at the last service, I kind of made an analogy of a couple of stores in Redmond. Redmond has 2 QFCs within a quarter of a mile of each other, right? You've got QFC North that has Panda Express. It has a huge deli department. It has Starbucks. And it's got some other stores nearby as well. And then a quarter of a mile south, you got downtown QFC. And it's a kind of a run-of-the-mill store. So if you got something you need to pick up quickly and it's easy to run in there and grab food. But it's not the QFC store you want to be seen at. You want to be seen at the one up north, the glitzy, glamorous one, right? And, you know, Jesus in the book of John talks about going to Jerusalem, and Jerusalem's a walled city. And it's for the city's protection. But they had a number of gates that allowed people to come in and out, and those gates could be closed if enemies were coming and they were going to attack. And Jesus went through the sheep gate. And going through the sheep gate was not the gate to be going through. Why is that? Well, it's because right by the sheep gate is the pool of Bethesda, where the lame, the sick, the hurt, the mentally challenged, that's where they hung out. Because the thought was when this pool was fed by an underground spring, and so when, just like, kind of like Old Faithful, right? Old Faithful at Yellowstone National Park, it doesn't go all the time. It goes, and then it rests, and the pressure builds up, and it shoots up again. And same thing with this, is the pool would bubble up, and the thought was when the pool bubbled up, whoever got into the pool first would be healed, right? Because they thought it was the angels stirring the pool. And the similarity to that is he knew that that man that had been lame for 38 years was there. He sought him out. He went out of his way to seek him out. And going and doing ministry at juvenile detention centers is not glamorous. It's not a glamorous ministry. But God knew that those kids were there and knew that he needed to touch them through this ministry. And it's tough. It's hard. It was hard to see that kid at the first detention center we went at. Takes a lot of coordination, logistically, trying to get from the north end of the state to the south end of the state, find hotels and making sure that our timing is just right on. Finish one service and be able to have enough time to drive to the second one and maybe fit in some food in there. It's challenging, it's difficult. But it is, as we saw on this trip, we saw a lot of kids touched. A lot of lonely. A lot of kids that have lost hope, that are alone, discouraged, empty, that God was able to go in and plant a seed of hope, plant a seed of encouragement. And so it wasn't just the three of us on this trip, it was you guys included as well. Through your prayers, through your financial contributions to help pay for fuel, to help pay for hotel expenses. That's basically what we used it for. We cover our own food, but you, as a body of New Life, sent us out to do this ministry, a much needed ministry. And it's only getting harder, it's only getting tougher for these kids. A lot of, they're saying, back when I started 20-some years ago, a lot of it was just gangbangers. And there's still some of that, but a lot of it is emotionally and mentally challenged youth because of where we are as a society now. A lot of loneliness, a lot of emptiness. And to have somebody show up and plant a seed of hope, plant a seed of encouragement, or just to be there when a lot of times their own family isn't there for them. That's what the staff see. It's what the detention manager sees. And truly, for the most part, they look forward to us showing up to do services for these kids. So thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for sending us out.
And we're going back in November. Is that song by Mercy Me? Whom shall I send? Who will go for me? Who will rise up for the King? Here am I, send me. Well, he sent us to the kids. And briefly, I just want to say to all our brothers and sisters in the Southeast dealing with Helene, we're praying for you. And once again, thank you to New Life for enabling us to stand in the gap for these kids. They're the future.
I got a mic attached to my head. Well, thank you, Kelly and Jeffrey, for sharing about your mission that we were able to support you in. And I know that we will be glad to help with future missions out there as well. It's always good to hear God working in this world, even when it seems bleak. Now, may the peace of God enfold us, the love of God uphold us, and the wisdom of God guide us. Have a blessed week, everyone.